Over the last 20 years, there have been some truly groundbreaking animated shows based on characters from DC Comics, the obvious being Batman the Animated Series, its expansion of that universe and Superman, and the ultimate culmination of the two shows, Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, fondly referred to in the fan community as the Bruce Timm era. Young Justice is similar to Justice League in that it is a large ensemble action-adventure show, but tonally and structure-wise, it's something very different. Created and produced by Brandon Vietti and Greg Wiseman for Warner Bros. And Cartoon Network, Brandon Vietti's experience in animation includes directing and producing several significant animated shows, as well as feature-length productions, including 1999's Roughnecks Starship Troopers Chronicles, Jackie Chan Adventures, and Batman Under the Red Hood, which is arguably still the best Batman movie. Cartoons count. Putting it bluntly, the guy knows how to direct. Greg Wiseman is a name you will come to hear a lot on this channel. His work of late includes Witch, Spectacular Spider-Man, and most recently Star Wars Rebels. Really, I should have just opened with him being the co-creator of Gargoyles. In short, he's a big deal. So what happens when talent of this level teams up? You get Young Justice. If I could have sex with any cartoon, it would be this one. It's gorgeous to look at, but also genuinely interesting and very clever. It knows how to pace itself and always leaves me satisfied. I am so enthralled with this show that I would gladly stay the night and listen to it talk about its feelings as I lovingly stroke its hair. Taking its name from the same titled comic book series from the early 2000s, the show, instead of doing a straight adaptation, took the same premise, a focus on young superheroes and their day-to-day troubles, but set it in a different continuity from the comics. There were, however, a fair few similarities to the two universes. Likely a factor in this was the inclusion of acclaimed novelist and main writer of the original comic series, Peter David, who was a strong presence in the show's writing team. A nice move by the producers. The show debuted in 2010, with the airing of the first two episodes, Independence Day and Fireworks. These episodes introduced us to a world already well populated with superheroes, some now so experienced that they now have their own proteges. Obviously Batman and Robin, Green Arrow and Speedy, complete with original hat, The Flash and Kid Flash, and Aquaman and a new version of Aqualad. No joke, Aqualad is one of the best elements of the series. Calder Hall was created purely for the show and would prove to be so popular that he would be later introduced into the main comics continuity, much like how Harley Quinn and X-23 were with their series. The series begins with the young heroes being frustrated that not really being trusted to do any real superhero work on their own, which comes to a head when the four feel misled into thinking that they were finally joining the Justice League, instead being given token membership and limited access to the League's facilities. Speedy, seeing this as the final insult, publicly falls out with Green Arrow and leaves to pursue his own solo career, leaving behind Robin, Aqualad and Kid Flash, similarly disillusioned but ultimately still loyal to their mentors. But teenagers being teenagers, the trio end up getting involved in something that the Justice League isn't aware of. That shocker turns out to be something actually quite significant. As a result, the League takes notice of their potential, in particular Batman, who sees the young sidekicks' lesser-known profiles as an excellent way to run Black Ops-style missions that would allow the League deniability. Classic Batman. Additional characters soon join, and the young heroes are also given their own base to operate from, complete with training facilities, well-stocked kitchen, and its own teleport device, which apparently goes to places all over the world. It's worth noting that at no point are the group referred to as Young Justice. Instead, they are simply known as the Team. The Team are assigned Justice League members in supervisory roles. These include Red Tornado as their main guardian, with regular visits from Black Canary and a counselor instructor role, and of course Batman, who assigns them their missions, because you know, Batman runs everything. That is the basic premise of the show, as I am very keen not to spoil the many surprises and twists. I am a child of the 80s and 90s period of animation, a fascinating time where what were essentially 20-minute toy commercials met mixed levels of creativity and talent for storytelling, which has significantly improved over the years. With any animated series I watch, I always look at key elements that I feel define it. Main theme and intro. The most important element which would first grab me as a child, and just as much now as a fully grown man-child, is the theme tune. Very simple and short, it has hints of the heroic, and it's kinda catchy. The visuals quickly convey the tone, and each week will include quick cut clips of the featured action from the particular episode. Story and characters. Young Justice is predominantly about a group of characters from very different backgrounds, learning to solve problems and work together. As you would expect from the title, they are young and prone to rash decisions. But what quickly happens is these characters start to learn and progress in both their heroic personas and as individuals. The show could have been simply a Monster of the Week formula, with protagonists having relatable life lessons, predictably paralleling whatever that episode's threat happens to be at that time.
Ultimate Spider-Man. Utter garbage.
But the show is so much smarter and mature than that. It also happens to be set in a 10-year spanning continuity, richly populated by almost every DC superhero. And where there are heroes, there are of course villains. Lex Luthor, of course. The Joker, there. Vandal Savage, Black Manta. Complete with laser helmet and aquatic soldiers. Why am I so excited by that? Let me take you back a few years, when Justice League Unlimited and the first incarnation of Teen Titans were still on the air, and life was just a little bit better. These shows were equally successful, critically and commercially, but both were hampered in their later seasons by something referred to by the fan community as the Batman-Superman embargo. There was a period of time when Warner Brothers didn't want certain characters from the Batman and Superman families to be used on those shows. The reasoning wasn't that clear. At the time, Batman Begins and the animated series The Batman were just starting, and it's thought that execs believed that it would confuse audiences if they appeared in different continuities. I personally think that it would have only sold more action figures, because really, that's what action cartoons are about, right? Action figure sales will be something we will return to later. However, this embargo expanded to include Aquaman and his own supporting cast. This included Aquaman's main nemesis, Black Manta. Young Justice did not have any such restrictions placed on it, but having access to all these characters and their backgrounds wasn't the show's real strength. It was actually the focus on the relationships between the main cast. Some characters are long-time friends, while others have secrets and agendas they are desperate to keep. Characters are often introduced almost with barely any mention, being just part of the background, but as the show progresses, so do these characters, some becoming very significant. What was a nice move by the writers was the use of well-established characters such as Superman and Batman in supporting roles. Batman mentioned earlier as the brains behind the team. However, Superman in Season 1 was used in a very different and somewhat controversial way. Upon discovering the existence of Superboy, Superman fails to accept the responsibility of what is basically an illegitimate son. Instead of mentoring him, something that Superboy is desperate for, he chooses to distance himself. This rejection from the world's greatest hero is a major part of Superboy's arc in the first season. As a result, he has to deal with some very complex emotions, while also coming to terms with who and what he is. That's very adult stuff. In fact, the theme of father figures runs strongly through the series. Some positive, whilst others quite dark. The show quickly establishes several mysteries, as well as a conspiracy involving the villains of this world. We have a lot of live-action DC TV series on now. This cartoon frankly makes those shows look like they were written in crayon by 7-year-olds with learning disabilities. Soundtrack. Nothing too memorable here. The show is one half espionage adventure, the other coming-of-age teen drama. The music does a good job conveying those themes without being too intrusive, giving good action beats and when needed successfully building tension. Design and style. As I enthusiastically put it earlier, this show is gorgeous to look at. Growing up on the very iconic Bruce Timm era and the equally distinctive Teen Titans, it's a pleasure to see a more comic-accurate portrayal of these characters. Some of the visuals are just stunning, always maintaining a tremendous scope when it comes to world building, as well as the background characters inhabiting it. The animators responsible for all the episodes of Young Justice is a Korean company called Moi. Followers of cult hit Avatar: The Last Airbender will notice some strong similarities, as Moi was also responsible for that show. Moi has also pretty much worked on every DC animated movie released since the mid-2000s, and will definitely be featured in future episodes. Action. It's staggering the creativity that went into some of the action scenes, as well as the quieter character moments. The writers make excellent use of such a varied amount of power sets, often having them use their powers in creative and intelligent ways, especially as the show progressed and the characters matured. Everyone has their own fighting styles, and a nice touch is the subtle differences the characters have with their general movement. A real example of great writing matched by excellent animation. The Clancy Brown effect. Whenever I watch any cartoon, the first thing I check is, does it feature Clancy Brown? Clancy Brown is one of the greatest things to have ever happened. His two most defining roles are as the Kurgan in Highlander, and in the Bruce Timm era of DC, voicing Lex Luthor. Still to this day, the best Lex Luthor. The man has done a lot of voice work over the years, to the point his presence has almost been a constant in the most significant shows I watched growing up. As a result, any show not featuring him will never in my eyes be truly great. Does Young Justice feature him? Yes, it does. But not nearly enough. Voice cast. No modern cartoon would be complete without Kevin Michael Richardson, who is literally in every cartoon made since the 1990s. That man's voice could arouse me if he read the back of a cereal box. Wiseman's fondness for featuring Star Trek The Next Generation actors in his shows continues, with Marina Sirtis and Mr. Data himself, Brent Spiner, as none other than the Joker. Other voices of note include veteran voice actor Jeff Bennett, Danny Trejo as Bane, Alan Tudyk, brilliantly cast as Green Arrow, Bruce Greenwood as Batman, a role he's been playing since Under the Red Hood. Still no Kevin Conroy though. And Rob Lowe, thoroughly enjoying himself as Captain Marvel. The late Miguel Ferrer as Vandal Savage. And most notably, Ed Asner, a long-time presence in DC animation, but probably most famous for his voice work on Pixar's Up. How meta is it? Meta is my jam. The show has a lot of Easter eggs and nice nods to its source material. Look, it's Talkie Tawny! Look it up, it's in a comic. The show often pays homage to iconic movies and TV shows. In one episode, the team fight a villain with a fair few similarities to Spider-Man, who is voiced by Josh Keaton. What's clever about that is that Keaton was the actual voice of Spider-Man in Greg Weisman's produced Spectacular Spider-Man. It's the little things like that which show the effort the creators put into making the series. There are also great uses of throwbacks to previous episodes. The continuity is one of the best elements of the show, as well as some excellent dialogue, often bordering on the adult. This was a show where all the people involved wanted to tell the best character-driven stories, using very dynamic and always inventive imagery. A lot of time and effort went into making something for not just young people, but for those of us who had grown up with these characters. It also offered something new, yet still faithful to why we liked them in the first place. Unfortunately, as I stated at the beginning, children's cartoons are really intended as toy commercials. Young Justice was an expensive show, and its production budget was tied to its toy sales. And for some reason, this show didn't really sell any. Why? Look at these. These are great. You can assemble an Amazo and you can build your own Hall of Justice. This led to its cancellation at the end of Season 2, which of course happened to be a cliffhanger.
Very frustrating.
There was also a PlayStation 3 tie-in game, Young Justice Legacy, which was set in between the first and second season, but wasn't released until a year later. Unfortunately, halfway through production, the series was cancelled. As a result, the developers didn't bother polishing the final version of the game before its release, as it most likely didn't seem worthwhile investing more money into a tie-in when the series it was based on was no longer being made. The story was written by the series creators and tied in heavily with the show's continuity. It also featured all of the series' voice cast, but sadly, being rushed out, the game suffered from average graphics, glitches, poor level design, and uninspired gameplay. It performed very badly in sales, and is regarded very poorly within the game community. However, there is a happy ending to this story. Since being put on Netflix, Young Justice has become one of its most viewed cartoons, leading to the green lighting of Season 3, and with that, the resolutions of all the unfinished stories in the show, which is awesome. I give Young Justice 5 Megaminds. If you haven't seen it yet, I hope you enjoy it. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and feel free to check out some of my other content. Until next time.